Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Around the Payload. I believe this is episode 11, which is crazy for me to think that we're this far into the show and this far into the Overwatch League season. But we have a star-studded cast today for Around the Payload, and I will be introducing them in just a second. But if you are a returning listener, thank you for coming back and listening to the greatest show on the High Noon Network at this time. But also, if you're a new listener, this show is essentially going to be just like Around the Horn, but definitely enough different that we won't get sued by ESPN. Basically, we're going to have a bunch of different topics in the Overwatch, in and around the Overwatch League, and all of these amazing guests are going to be taking turns talking about each topic, and I'm going to be giving out arbitrary points. The points don't matter for anything except for the awesome little crown that you actually see next to Taco's picture, because he is a returning champion. But we will get to that in just a second. First, and certainly not least, we've got Doa, the Overwatch League caster. Yes, it's that Doa.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Thank you for being on the show.
It's that Doa, that's right. One time when I was casting StarCraft 2 in Korea, some kid walked up to me and Wolf and said, "Are you the Husky StarCraft guys?" And I'm like, "No, that's not. I'm the Doa," he said, and I still am.
It just
to this day.
that is a great story. We also, to his, I don't even know if it's to your actual left or right, but we have in the upper right hand corner, we've got Spider, who is a host on the Overwatch League Network. What is up, sir?
What's going on, guys? I'm here to just do better than Slambo did last week. That's all I'm asking for. My answers could be total garbage.
Well,
just give me slightly more points than he got.
Slambo didn't do too bad last week.
I know.
Spoilers.
I was happy for my co-host, but then I'm like, man, I'm gonna follow that up. Like, God, this is a terrible act to follow, but I'll do my best.
For sure. Well, the best of luck to you. Right below Spider is, of course, the host of the Omnic Lab and the Overwatch League recap. That is I Play Games. Hello and welcome back.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure. Hopefully this time I won't be beaten by Death Blow, which I think will be fine since he's not here.
Well, he finds a way. Nature, it finds a way. And the requisite Jeff Goldblum reference has been made. But last and certainly not least, we have Taco, co-founder of Overwatch Score and a returning Around the Payload champion. What's up, buddy? Thanks for coming.
Hey, yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Just, don't forget that the game is rigged and Deathblow can still win, even though he's not here.
I wish I could say that that wasn't possible, but it certainly is, because anything is possible in a game that I'm running. But without further ado, let's jump right in to round number one.
Round one. Capture the objective.
Let's just talk about the elephant in the room here. It's Brigitte. The hero number 27 has been...
That's very unfair to Brigitte.
Ooh, savage, but also definitely worth a point there, Doa. Before the question's even asked, you're getting a point. But Brigitte is, whether for better or for worse, the elephant in the room here. She is big news, Doa, and definitely an interesting topic for competitive play looking into the future. So I don't know how much you've gotten to play her yet. She's on the PTR, but what are your initial impressions, Doa? We'll start with you and potential meta implications moving forward.
I played her a little bit. I actually played her the most a couple weeks ago at the Blizzard offices when all of us casters were over there hanging out. And it was definitely love at first sight. Like, she's tanky, she can, get aggressive. She's got like this cool little charge stun thing. Her long range boop on like shift is extremely fun to use to knock people off of ledges with. I think she's great. I don't think she's going to quite be the battering ram that people think she's going to be. Like, you still do melt pretty fast if you get in the middle of the action, without good support from your team. So I think initially you're going to see a lot of Brigittas kind of just running in and dying. So you kind of have to still be pretty cautious about the position. Yeah, me too, man. But I think she's got a lot of potential. I think she's another good a shutdown support to protect a Zenyatta or protect an Ana or something like that. Like especially like her and Ana together, I think is going to be a really difficult support duo to take down. But we'll see what teams do with her. I'm really curious. I wish we could have her in Overwatch League tomorrow, because I think she's just going to be really fun to watch too.
Man, I was really kind of hoping that was at least a possibility. No, we knew it wasn't going to happen. Definitely not going to be happening probably anytime soon, but we will definitely let you know. But Spider, I want to get your thoughts here. Have you played her at all? What do you think what kind of impact do you think she's gonna have on the competitive meta when she comes in?
I'm happy to report I did get to play her a lot on the PTR this weekend, so I got a pretty good feel for her, and I feel like she checks a lot of boxes for the casual player. I mean, she's basically a paladin archetype. So a lot of people who grew up with D&D, even World of Warcraft, will find something in Brigitte that they like. As far as meta implications, I want to see how pros really get a handle on her, but I feel like she's going to really counter dive. That's kind of been my sense as playing with her. I'm kind of like high diamond, low master, so nowhere near, what we see in the Overwatch League. But in the comps that I ran, she shuts down Genji, she shuts down Tracer, even after the nerf, because she did have a kind of combo that they kind of nerfed out, and you can still kind of pull it off, but now you can't kind of one-hit Tracer through the stun. But running her with an Ana, I actually found running her with a Moira on defense is ridiculous, because you have either one or both ultimates up almost every single push, and that's even after they increase the ult, cost for Brigitte. So I like her. I mean, I will hold judgment on the pros, because I thought Moira would be played more, and she hasn't yet, except for like triple tank. But I think she's pretty cool.
Moira's definitely played a lot by me, because it's the only hero I can effectively play. But I want to get
a few heroes out there, man. I mean, if you're just playing by yourself and you play support, Moira you can't go wrong with.
That is definitely true. But I want to get your thoughts here. What have you done with Brigitte? What do you think she's going to do moving forward?
I really love the addition of Brigitte, or Brigitte, however you want to call it.
Brigitte, what does the scouter say about his power level?
Name pronounced in a Swedish way, according to the Team 4 devs that we talked to when we were over there. They were like, yeah, sorry, casters, for another name that looks like it should be said one way, but you have to say it. So technically, it is straight from the devs. It is Brigitte.
Brigitte.
What I was told.
I mean, that's coming from the source, man. I believe you.
There you go. I'll still screw it up on the cast, so don't worry.
I just really love the addition of the hero. I love the fact that there's another support, and that she's coming out very soon after Moira. I think that the support crowd needs a little more love. They need a little more options to choose from, and just more variety in like the things that you can do with that class. And not to mention that, but they've given us two supports that are completely different. Like Moira to me seems like a main healer, somebody that's there to pump out heals and carry your team forward. Not much utility. And then Brigitte, on the other hand, is the opposite. She's full of utility. All of her kit just screams, "Get away from me! Get away from my backline! I'm a protector." She's like a mini Reinhardt that can also heal you and get people away from you. For characters like McCree, for example, this is a dream come true, right? He's gonna love standing right next to her, because anybody who dives him is gonna have a really bad time. You're gonna have a chain stun basically with Brigitte and the flashbang, which I personally am excited about. He's one of my favorite characters to play, and anyone at range, like you said, Ana or Zenyatta, are just gonna love having her with them. It enables another type of compositions too, right? Like her ultimate rallying call, is that what it's called?
Rally is the ultimate.
Rally, there you go. I think it does exactly that. It's like a battle cry, right? Like we're going into the battle, let's do a team, and it's a different kind of mechanic. It lasts beyond the ultimate. If you don't use the health or the armor, you're going into the next battle with it. So I kind of like the mechanic that it carries over.
150 of the armor sticks around specifically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't think that any other ultimate does that, except for maybe Symmetra, right? That's the only like lingering ult that has an effect in such a prolonged time. I don't know. So it's a slightly different mechanic. I personally like it. The shield seems pretty cool, and the reverse hook, I like to call it, seems like it's gonna enable some fun times.
It definitely has a very interesting and funny effect on a jumping Winston. But Taco, I want to get last words here on Brigitte. Have you had a chance to play her? What do you think she's going to do?
I have had a chance to play her. I think she's really interesting. For me, one of the key focal points I want to see when she gets released is whether or not she settles in as an off healer or an off tank. I could see her very easily fitting in at either of those positions because her healing output right now is not that substantial. It is a little bit hard to measure the impact of like the temp armor that she gives out, but from like initial playthroughs, it seems like unless she's like really, really paired up with like an Ana for the nade or in the like a right kind of niche, that her healing output might not quite be enough to take that off support slot. I think it's really interesting that her shield bash can still stun through shields. Which has some pretty significant implications, against Reinhardt, right? If she can stun an opposing Reinhardt, get him to drop their shield and allow her team to drop ults through there, that's pretty substantial. Overall, I think that I'm really, really interested to see her in pro play. I think that obviously her kit is very geared towards your team being very, very grouped up. So I think we're certainly going to see, like, as the higher the skill level goes, the more success people are going to find with her. And then I think we may find out that it's really just like kind of like top tier players and organized groups that really get her to a point where she's worth playing over some of the other supports, just because of how reliant she is on being around as many teammates as possible to maximize her output, and how just uncoordinated a lot of people are, or just not coordinated enough to get, it feels to me like you're going to need that 100% like coordination with her to really get her numbers in a place that might unseat the Zenyatas and the Lucios.
I think you could actually see like a triple support, triple tank comps come out with her, because she does, like,
that would be interesting.
All the supports and all the tanks in Overwatch do pretty much okay damage. And so if you have her up there with 3 other tanks, it's going to be hard to get rid of her, and she's going to be healing everybody. Pair that with like a Lucio and a Moira, or a Zen and a Moira, or there's a bunch of different combinations. So I'm kind of curious if we're actually going to see 3 support comps come out when people get better with her. And I do just one last thought with Brigitte. I do kind of wonder a little bit how useful she's going to be as an anti-dive support. She is good at that, but at the same time, if she's back there, her healing output is really, really low, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to be hitting guys to healing, otherwise you just have your E, which isn't a lot, then you're essentially just putting a little armor bubble on people that are about to take damage, you're hoping. So I kind of wonder, I don't know if you can't really have her sit back, but she is really good at being anti-dive. So we'll see where
her kit seems kind of anti-dive, but also sort of like dive friendly, right? If she's on the front line with your team and she gets ultimate and your team goes up with her, that seems like the most dive friendly thing you could possibly do. And then she suddenly gets movement enhancement.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Like, some people in chat are saying that they've suggested even running her as an off tank, which I think is a interesting proposition, right? She is very tanky, and running only a single tank with 2 supports could give you enough sustain and frontline to like go ahead with that. So I think she fits very interestingly in these compositions.
Yeah, and I think the long and short of it is that it will definitely be, she's definitely an interesting wrinkle in a lot of potential comps. Maybe she'll open up some other stuff, but we do have to go on. Last thing I'll say here is that in the matches that I played her, she was really, really great paired up with 5 other Brigittas against also 6 Brigittas. So, that's where I saw her. Maybe we'll see that in Overwatch League. Maybe that'll just be a mode. But let's move on.
I have anything to say about it.
But moving on, we had some, I'll call them leaks or rumors, whatever we want to call them. Let me just put it out here first. Not confirmed, not it really as unconfirmed as they could possibly be, slightly better than me just making it up. But we had some potential leaks of Korean players moving to Overwatch League teams. And really quickly, we've got Architect to San Francisco Shock. I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation here, but Cho Hyobin to San Francisco Shock. London Spitfire getting TZ. London Spitfire also getting DDing. LA Gladiators getting Void, and Dallas Fuel getting OGE. I just absolutely butchered that entire.
Yeah, you having those 3 tough names in a row is the best thing that's going to happen this show.
Yeah, that's fine. But let's assuming that there's some amount of credibility here, is there, Spider, we'll start with you. Is there anyone that's maybe losing playing time, or any teams that are particularly ahead if these are true?
I mean, the big one that jumps right out is the one that Monty's been pushing for, which is Architect. I mean, San Francisco Shock have needed a good Genji player, and Architect is shown to be one of the best, out there. I can't even argue that he's the best not in the league right now. I think he's one of the best in the world. So Shock have shown that, Baby Bay has flexed to the Genji. Dante has flexed to the Genji, and neither one have been really good. I guess is the nicest way I can put it. They've been serviceable, but
Dante's gotten a lot better.
he has, and I even
Improved a
feel
lot.
that Baby Bay has gotten a lot better. But that's not really what they're on that team for. And on a team full of DPS, they're gonna all have highly specialized roles, and I think Architect is gonna be that Genji player, and I think he's absolutely what they needed. And if Brigitte doesn't completely destroy dive and Tracer Genji is still here, you're looking at Architect and Sinatra, which is a scary combo to think about. So I have to say, if these are true, the Shock definitely made out the best. Plus, they picked up another tank player, which couldn't hurt.
Well, it's potentially very scary for the DPS that are already on the San Francisco Shock. But I play your thoughts here on these leaks.
What can I say? I think that Korea has been cultivating this fruit, and now they're ripe for the taking. They have a lot of talent to pick from over there, and I think that a lot of teams are catching on to this. And in order to compete against the top teams right now, Dynasty, Excelsior, Spitfire, you might have to import some talent, and I think that is exactly what we're seeing with some of these teams. I'm curious with Baby Bay, because he seems like he has a big personality, and he seems like he likes being the star of the show. So I wonder if bringing some more competition is gonna be healthy in that environment there. I don't know. That might be just me speculating.
It's true. It is called the Baby Bay Challenge, not the Architect Challenge. But Taco, what are you thinking here? Is this gonna shake things up for any of these teams?
I think the most interesting part, if all of this is true, is that it just buries Florida and Shanghai that much further in the basement. If all of the other teams, not that London's really in there, but Gladiators, Fuel, Shock are floating in that lower mid table. If they all suddenly just get way stronger, I think that really,
man.
Sure, yeah, they're picking up some people, but I looked at the Shanghai's pickups. Just already to me didn't look like enough, and now if the other teams around them are continuing to grow their talent, and they're already so much better that Shanghai has been unable to take a match off of anybody so far. I just see them getting further buried. I see Florida falling further behind. I really think maybe Florida and Shanghai's signings were enough to get them to start catching up to teams like the Shock and the Gladiators, and then the Gladiators got Fisher and potentially Void, and the Shock got Architect, Choyobin, and they have Super and Sinatra aging in this month. That's just they're just so far behind now. London backfilling their spots, cool. That's one where it'll be interesting to see how much those guys actually get to play. Shock are gonna have a really deep roster. I'd look to them as probably it seems like they're gonna have to move some players at some point. I can't imagine that everybody's gonna be 4 players are suddenly gonna be happy to hit the bench. As they've got the 2 guys aging in and the 2 potential signings. Again, assuming all of this is true. OGE to Dallas. Now you've got 3 main tanks, 4 if you count Taimu. There's no way everybody comes out of that happy, right? So a lot of interesting stuff. Adding more talent to the league, great, cool. Hopefully we'll see more from Shanghai and Florida, because I think they really are going to need it if they want to stop being basement dwellers.
For sure. Doa, last words here. Any thoughts on the potential of these rumors here?
Well, I can't confirm any of this, obviously.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to do it on this show, despite how much I like this show. Okay. But I think just speaking generally, it'd be pretty silly for all the teams in the league to not have 12 players by the end of the signing period. You really should, if for no other reason than the ability to do in-house scrims, which is a massive advantage to be able to practice, have one team play as another team, and kind of mimic their style and give you, experience against something you may not be good at. So there's just a lot of you've got everything to gain from having a full 12-man roster and like nothing to lose. So I think if any team comes out of the signing period with less than 12, I think that's a big mistake as an organization. But looking at this list, if these guys do get picked up, the one I'm actually most excited about is Void. I thought that he's actually in contention or is the best diva in the world and has been for a long time. And so having him get paired up with Gesture would be or not Gesture, with Fissure rather, on Gladiators would be really huge. I'd feel bad for Bishu in that situation because I think you might get benched for a little while with that. But, again, you're going to have that 12-man roster. Some people are going to be on the bench, and it's still really valuable to have good off-tank players or good players around like Bishu to, help you run those strats and to come in if, say somebody gets sick or something like that. Yeah. So I think for me personally, Void is going to be super awesome to watch. Like, this guy is insanely good on the Diva. And so if he does get picked up by Gladiators, that's massive for them.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. And Deathblow in the chat did remind me here that Doa confirming leaks is worth a lot of points on this show. Just keep it in mind if you're looking to get a couple extra points here. Confirming leaks and disclosing secrets is definitely worth a lot of points.
I want to touch on something Taco said. He said, if OGE does go to Dallas, no one, there are going to be people that don't come out happy. I think the fans will come out happy because we might have a tank line. That's one thing we've struggled with. I love Coco. I love, I guess I like XQC as a tank, but I think we need some new blood up there.
Dumb jokes and puns are definitely rewarded here.
But yeah, I think the fans will be happy that OGE is there.
True. There are definitely going to be potentially players that aren't happy, but there will be fans.
Yeah, assuming things don't implode.
Right. Well, that's always that's a discussion for a potentially next week's episode of Around the Payload. But moving along here, we'll go to the last question of round one. So Houston coming into this week looked very, very strong. They're obviously in the stage 1 playoffs. They've been, kind of on top of the world. They've been able to contend with most, if not all, of the teams in the league. And they had a rough week this week. A very, very close loss to Philadelphia and I'm using air quotes here, close loss to New York Excelsior.
What's close?
I'm putting the air quotes because I am rubbing it in Deathblow's face and also all of the Houston Outlaws fans of the Discord's face. And also I'm just supporting NYXL here. I'm giving the ironic air quotes here, but I want to get your thoughts here. What's going on with Houston? What happened with them?
I don't know. I think that every team has their off weeks. This might have been Houston's off week, but it was super, super costly for them. Allowing Philadelphia to take over that game and reverse sweep him, I think, was a huge blow for them that escalated throughout the week and might have had a big influence in the turnout for New York Excelsior. And honestly, they seem like they are trying out certain strategies. In both games, they played Clockwork on their first round and then completely switched him out and allowed Jake to take over the Tracer in the rest of the games. And I'm not saying that Jake didn't perform bad. He was actually, popping off here and there with a Tracer. His performance is not bad, but it's definitely not up there with some of the best Tracers in the league, like Soon or Sabiobi, right? We can definitely tell he needs a little bit more. Not at the level of his Junkrat, and it cost them dearly. It was also really impressive to see Philadelphia not play EQO at all and stick to Shadowburn, which I think all of us had been like, where is Shadowburn? EQO suddenly comes out and he's the new star of the team. Is it like replacing Shadowburn? But never mind. He came in this week, and I think he showed us that he can flex into a lot of things. And I don't think that Houston was expecting that. They were expecting him on the Genji. And as soon as he started trading into Widowmaker and some of the maps, even Pharah, he was killing it on the Pharah. It was really tough on them, and I don't think that they could pull off the weight. I mean, they were having some good fights, but the frontline, Fraggy and Poco, man, those two guys were opening up so much space for Shadowburn in those last few games that I don't know, it just looked really tough for them. And the New York Excelsior match, I don't know, I didn't catch much of it. I saw it kind of like here and there.
Mhm.
Great
It
match.
It was a really
great
good match.
I should go back and watch it, but yeah, it seems that even though they know what they're playing against, they were just not able to pull off the strategy.
Yeah, it was definitely. In all seriousness, it was probably the closest 4-0 that we've seen so far. But Taco, I wanted to I want to hear it from you, man. You have both a Houston Outlaws, Houston Outlaws gear and NYXL gear. What's going on with Houston here?
I do. I think it's a combination of things. I don't think when you have a bad week that you can generally point to one thing. Sometimes yes, but in this one, I think Jake was sick. He didn't play that great. I think on a strategic side, they're trying different things out, and one of the things they seem to be trying a lot is playing the comps that everybody else is playing instead of what they had been successful with prior to this week. And this week they played a lot of Genji Tracer, and it didn't work out that great for them. I think Jake would be the first person to tell you. I think he said it in press conferences, interviews. That he knows he's not Saviolbi, and he's not out when he's on Tracer. He's not out there trying to be Saviolbi, right? He's trying to play a different style of Tracer to apply pressure in a different way. He's not trying to be that that shutdown corner Tracer who takes out the other Tracer and then collapses in and gives his team the 65. But he was off his game. It's definitely not a character that I would say he's dominant on, even in that pressure application style that he's trying to run. I think they had a bad, just a rough week. I don't think that we're good. I think if you underestimate Houston next week, you're going to find that you're going to be very, very wrong.
I agree with you there. You can't discount them.
Yeah, and now that my rivalry week with my podcast co-host is over, I can go back to talking sense about the Houston Outlaws instead of just talking trash. But Doa, you were obviously there for in person here for the match. What did you get from the Outlaws this week? Do you think that they're, is it going to be a mistake to underestimate them, or are they kind of on the downturn here?
Yeah, I don't think you should underestimate them. I don't think Jake's Tracer is the best in the world. I think maybe you should, if you're going to run Tracer, you should have Linkster do that, and then have Jake, play heroes that he's performed better with in the past. But beyond that, I think the Philadelphia match just seemed like kind of a mental collapse for the team. They were doing great in the first two games, and then things just kind of fell apart. And if you throw in some intense tactical crouching from the Philadelphia side, and that kind of was a nail in the coffin with that one. But the New York game, the first map, Volskaya, I think it was, they just got smashed.
Yeah.
And then the next three maps were actually really close. If you go back and watch those maps, whatever Houston was playing, they were generally executing really well with. The one that stands out to me is the Lijiang Tower map, where I felt like they played really, really well in terms of handling some of the dives that New York threw at them and just kind of being in the right place at the right time. But the problem is that on the New York side, you had these incredible individual performances. Like Meko had a really, really good day during that match. And so, you can't beat New York when they're on the top of their game. I think no matter who you are, right? So I think that was kind of the two factors, kind of a mental collapse in the first one, and then you're playing New York and they're doing great in the second one. So looking ahead to next week, they play Valiant and Florida, I think it is. And Valiant should be interesting. I think that's the match that's really going to tell us where Houston is at right now in stage 2. So I don't really want to make any calls on that team until I see that match. And then, against Florida, you'd think they could probably beat them, but Florida's actually been looking a little bit better lately, so I'd still call that a Houston win. But it's hard to really comment at all until I see that Houston Valiant match.
Yeah, the Houston Valiant match is definitely a bit of a placement match for Houston and for Valiant, for that matter, in terms of where they stack up in the overall grand scheme.
I wouldn't be too worried if I'm a Houston fan, though. Honestly,
yeah,
I think that was a rough week for them, and I don't think it's going to be indicative of the rest of their stage.
Sure. Spider, last words here on Houston and their week and their future in this stage.
I mean, when you look at the Philly game, I think you guys are absolutely right. I think it was a mental shutdown. And I think the big part of that is as soon as they lost map 3, the last time they played Philly popped in their heads, where they were reverse swept in that series too. So they were like, oh no, this is happening again. Oh
Not
crap,
like this.
what do we do?
Deja vu.
put Jake on Tracer, you know, all kinds of strange decisions. Like you guys have Clockwork. Clockwork isn't a top tier Tracer, but I feel like at this point he's a little better than Jake is. So I feel like if they do want to run that, you know, Genji Tracer style, which I agree, I don't think is their best comp. You know, give Clockwork a little more playtime. He's shown that he can flex. He's shown that he's a capable Tracer. I feel like he just needs a little more time. And, you know, in that Philly game, once it got in their head, Shadowburn used that EQO fire and said, all right, I'm actually going to go on the offensive. I'm not going to play Shadowburn style. I'm going to follow Fraggy in there, and I'm just going to, you know, take out the supports. And, you know, Coolmat and Muma are great. They're arguably the best tank line, but there's only so much you can do when, you know, Shadowburn's on a rampage. The New York game was close, but New York just executed everything Houston wanted to do better. When you put somebody on Tracer against the best anti-Tracer Tracer, they better at least, you know, go maybe 1 for 2. And I feel like Jake didn't even do that. So most of the fights they were going in down a man or almost down a man. You know, New York was the better team in that match. So I feel like there's not quite as much to break down there. They just beat them.
yeah, for sure.
I think New York caught them off guard a little bit by Sabiobi playing a bit of a different style of Tracer than he usually does. It was a lot less like Sabiobi on Jake. Sabiobi wins the one-on-one collapsing. It was more like suddenly Sabiobi's in your back line. Your supports are like, wait, our Tracer's still alive. What's happening? And then they're dead. And it seemed like it took them a while to adapt to that too.
Yeah, definitely. If you were basing your entire game strategy on the stage 1 New York, and we're reviewing the tape and doing that, you got bamboozled in that match against Houston for sure. So, one last thing I'll say about this is free Mendo. Think about it. Think about it. Just free Mendo, Houston. But
he's on that team somewhere.
To Mendo, they haven't been completely hidden from view.
Yeah. I don't know. But that brings us to the end of round number 1. And I know it's such a meme now, and I keep bringing it up, which is becoming even more of a meme. But it is a close match at the end of round 1. For the audio listeners, I will go over the scores really quick. We've got iPlay at 19 points. We've got Taco in with 21. And then we've got a 2-way tie for first place with Doa and Spider both with 22 points. But as I like to say, it is still anyone's game going in to round number 2.
Round 2. Capture the objective.
So we've seen a lot of organizational changes for the LA Valiant in the past weeks and months of Overwatch League. So Taco, I'll just jump right to it. What's the effect of having 3 different coaches, 3 head coaches for LA Valiant having on that team moving forward?
Sure. I think there's a few things. One, I think you've got a rotating cast of DPS getting playtime next to Soon. And I think that on a higher level, we're not seeing much in the way of like strategic development from the Valiant. Their record is really good right now. I think that they're punching a bit above their weight with regard to their strategy. I think they're a good team, don't get me wrong, but I think they're winning games because Soon is just bodying people left and right. And then when they go against the top teams, that's when they're losing because those teams are able to shut Soon down. But I mean, he's popping off. He's carrying more often than I think even Carpe. If you look at the other great players in the league, and they're doing a lot for their teams, but Soon is winning a lot of matches. When he's not winning fights, he's just single-handedly like pushing the payload with Tracer's like tiny little arms until it gets there. Like between like his positioning, his back capping, his ability to just delete a backline single-handedly. He's finding ways to, this goes to positioning, but he's finding ways to get in at the enemy team over and over and over again, untouched. And that's not to discredit any of the other players. They're very talented, but I think he's right now like just the reason that they're so high up in the league. I think eventually that's something that's going to be tough to sustain. So hopefully that new coach can get there. They can work on their chemistry, figure out if Kareev's going to continue to be that second DPS, what they're going to do there. And start to evolve some strategy more, because right now they're very, very reliant on Soon.
For sure. Doa, your thoughts on LA Valiant and the internal coaching changes?
I mean, it can't be good, right? I mean, you every coach is going to have like a little bit of a different style, and you know, the players are going to have to adjust to that every single time it happens. So yeah, I can't imagine this is a good thing for them. I don't really know what's being said by these coaches within the team practice facility, so it's really hard to judge how much of a detriment it really is. But I kind of agree that like right now, Valiant is kind of getting by on the strength of their players on an individual level. They've got a really, really great tank combo in Fate and Envy. Those guys are awesome and they work well together. Soon is, of course, fantastic. One of the best DPS in the league. I would say almost certainly the best tracer right now. And then you've got Kariv, who's finally playing DPS again after a long hiatus in the support role. And I think that's bringing a lot to the team too. And a lot of people are saying, where's Silk Thread, where's Agilities and all that. But, maybe right now Kariv is the way to go. They are winning a decent amount. So, I say kind of let it keep happening. But as far as the coaches thing goes, there's not really a whole lot to say about it. You just can't imagine that being a good thing for them.
Yeah, certainly.
Hopefully it stabilizes soon.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, soon in the future, not soon the player. I think he's probably...
Oh, and that does remind me, Doa, saying a tracer player is better than Sebe Elby, that's not acceptable here.
I don't know, man. I mean, put them in the 1v1 together. I wonder who'd come out. I think Sebe Elby is right up there. Like, I think soon you could argue that he's the best tracer, but I don't know if you could say definitively anyone's the best at anything right now.
Well, that's not what this show is about, Doa. This is about making bold accusations.
I think
unbackable.
Against top-level competition, Sabiobi is very frequently still performing at a very, very high level. And I think when the Valiant have lost, it's been soon being still good, but less dominant in the game against.
I think Sabiobi works better with his team, too, than Soon does.
Yeah.
I also think Taco's just trying to buy points here.
I'm not just trying to buy
the other team or the other way around.
What's that?
Is it Sabiobi have an easier time against the other teammates than Soon is against, Jonak, for example?
It's possible too. Yeah.
There's a lot of factors, and it's definitely not an easy question. But one thing I do know is that LeBron James confirmed better than Michael Jordan. But moving on, Spider, what do you think? What are your thoughts here on the LA Valiant's coaching staff changes?
I mean, you have to look at their record, and sure, they kind of falter when they play the top tier teams, but they're still holding consistent. So you have to say maybe the coaching isn't affecting them. Are they getting better? No. They're basically the same team they were when the league started. The new coach that has come in, that probably made the call to put Kariv on DPS, I think is their first move in the right direction to become a better team. I mean, when you look at Kariv playing DPS, you could just look at last week, and sure, you could say they didn't play top tier teams. They played the Fuel and the Shock, as much as it pains me to say that.
I was going to say, you're wearing a Dallas Fuel jersey, aren't you?
I am very honest with my team, okay? And that's the only way you can love them.
Fair.
So we can't all be in first place, and if you're not in first place, you have to call them on it. So, Kariv posted a plus 50 kill death differential. So even against low tier teams, that's ridiculous. So, this new coach is the right answer, I think, for them right now. So, let the past be the past. Stage 1 is done. They still have a good record. I still think with their current coach and their current team, they have a shot to be in the playoffs at the end of the season. I am happy to see them moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they've always been a playoff team. It's just been like at the bottom of the playoffs always, and never like really much higher. But I played last words here on the Valiant and their coaching changes.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'll keep it brief. I definitely agree that changing coaches mid-season is probably a sign that something is not working. I think that teams like Shanghai Dragons, which, have been actively changing their coaching roster, we've seen that maybe they're trying to improve their team somewhere else. They maybe the players are not the problem. Maybe it's their approach. I think that Valiant has a ton of potential. They could very well end up in the top 3, go to the finals. They have the players to do it. They have the talent. And maybe it's just a change of attitude, a change of strategy that they need to close the gap there. So any refreshing change is welcomed. And, I don't think that Soon is going to let us down. That guy is just such a smart player.
Yeah, definitely a great player. Cannot argue with that. But let's move right along here, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Soul Dynasty here. We've seen some changes in their Tracer player. We've seen Munchkin, we've seen Bunny on Tracer. Doa, I'll just put it right to you. Who's the better Tracer here for Soul, Munchkin or Bunny, and what are your thoughts on it?
I think right now it's definitely looking like Munchkin's the better Tracer player for Soul. I don't know if he's the better Tracer player objectively, but he seems to be fitting in better with what Soul is trying to do right now, which is to kind of go back to that like Lunatic High style of dive play that we saw, from Lunatic High last year. So it's certainly working out really well for them. They've played about the same amount of time overall in the Overwatch League, according to what I'm seeing on Winston's lab. Thanks, Winston's lab, for finding all that stuff. But anyway, statistically, Munchkin's a little bit better than Bunny, but they're really, really close. I just think it's a matter of who's a better fit for what the team is doing strategically right now, and I think Munchkin's it. So, yeah, I think it was a good call to swap him in, and there's a good reason they keep using him. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to do versus Philly this next week. But for now, yeah, Munchkin's the guy.
Definitely going to be a good match. Spider, if you're the Soul Dynasty here, are you playing Munchkin or are you playing Bunny?
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to have to say you're going to have to go with Bunny. Doa mentioned that they're almost statistically identical. The only big difference is, Bunny has a match win percentage of around 50%, whereas Munchkin is closer to 70. Now, most people would say, oh, well, why wouldn't you play Munchkin? You have to look at the teams that they're playing Munchkin against. They're playing Munchkin against the lower tier teams, and he's still putting up the same statistics as Bunny. So when you're playing against, NYXL, London, Valiant, they're playing Bunny more often than they're playing Munchkin. And, Bunny's kind of shown that he's the one you want when you want consistency. So I feel like while Munchkin over the past week has been the flashier Tracer player, I mean, he ran circles around Dallas so much that XQC was crying on Twitter about it. So, I mean, Munchkin is a phenomenal player. I just want to see him tested against a little bit better of teams before I say he's a better player than Bunny. So right now I'm going to go with consistency, and I'm going to say Bunny.
Well, it's 1-1 right now. Who are you picking, Munchkin or Bunny?
I'm going to go back to Munchkin. I hate to say it, but he has been the flasher of the two. And if you're just going by pure feel and by just watching them, he is mega entertaining to watch. And he's the guy that's taking the attention away from Fleta. And if you take the attention from Fleta, you are doing something. You might be right that he's been playing against the lower tier teams, right? Even though Dallas Fuel has been picking it up in this past season, they're still in the bottom 6. But regardless, I think that Munchkin is playing really well with the team. They're blending really well. And as long as he can keep it up, I think that they're going to keep playing him. The fantastic thing, though, is that you have two great Tracer players between Bunny and Munchkin. So it's just a great asset for the team to have them both. If one of them gets sick or is just not in their game that day, well, you have the other one. And that's not a luxury that a lot of teams have. I mean, just ask Houston. They're having trouble just getting one.
Munchkin traded to Houston, confirmed on this show by I Play Games. But Taco, last words here. Are you deciding it in Munchkin's favor, or are we bringing it to a draw where I have to pick the winner?
I'm deciding it in Munchkin's favor. We're gonna get a 3-1 victory for Munchkin here for our boy Munch. You look at
no one has ever said that. Love it. You heard it here first.
If you look at the stats over the whole season, they are pretty equal. But if you look over the last 4 weeks or so, it definitely leans pretty heavily in Munchkin's favor. He's almost a full point ahead of Bunny on KDR. So, I mean, Munchkin's in form right now, and so you really got to ride the hot hand there, and maybe it never cools down. Hot Munch, so got to keep that hot Munch going.
What is that? Wonderful. I don't even know what that means, but it's good for a point.
I'm going last, so I'm going for humor. I mean, the recent stats back it up. They're really close for sure.
I'm pretty sure that the title of the episode is going to be "The Good Old Munch" for sure. That's almost certainly confirmed now. But let's move on to the last question of round 2. We actually saw this. I believe this happened very early on today, or maybe last night. But the Shanghai Dragons coach U4 is stepping down. The assistant coach Kong will act as a stand-in coach in the interim until they find a new coach. Spider, start with you. What does this mean for the Dragons? Is good, bad? Does it matter at all?
It has to be good. I mean, they only have one direction to go. I mean, frankly, it surprised me that he stuck around this long. I mean, this is a guy who over a month ago was fined almost $9,000 for promising spots to underage players and account sharing. I mean, in any other sport, if you look at similar offenses, that coach would have been gone immediately. So, Dragons haven't performed this season at all. It's safe to say, with the 0-win record. So, no matter what change they make at this point, it's going to be for the positive. I mean, either that or they're going to come out net even. So, what's the worst thing that can happen? And, like I said, with past offenses, clean house a little bit.
So you're saying that if the Shanghai Dragons signed me as their Moira player, it would be a positive for them. It's confirmed here, Shanghai.
They couldn't lose any more.
So. I like those odds, but I'd play. Your thoughts here on Shanghai losing their coach? We don't necessarily need to talk about it because I think it happened literally 2 minutes before the show started, but Dia is also going to be out for 2 weeks. Is this a good? Does this mean better things for Shanghai moving forward?
Not Dia being out for 2 weeks. I think that one of the only things that the good team has going on for them is Dia. But definitely the coach change, I think, is welcomed. I think that, like Spider said, there's not much that they can go do wrong anymore, right? They already have the worst record in the league. They've lost every single game. At this point, I think that their goal is to at least just win a game, at least against the Mayhem or something, But regardless of that, I think that they probably starting to give up on dreams of winning the league, right? Like that might not be happening this year, but they really need to start looking forward and picking up their act, because if by the end of the league they're not good, they're not going to be good coming in next year. So I don't know. They still have a little bit of time, but they definitely have to do something. Not even having one win on their record just looks really bad on the whole organization. It reflects bad on the players and the coaches, and at this point you got to start wondering if that $20 million investment was worth it for them.
Definitely a lot of questions probably going into the Shanghai Dragons investors' minds. But Taco, is U4 leaving? Is this going to be maybe a spark that ignites a flame that pushes a breeze into the right direction?
That's not a good movie.
Confused why this is
a bad movie, man.
I'm confused why this is a surprise for anybody. They signed the former coach from Miraculous Youngsters a little while ago, who's not quite in the States yet. I'm gonna botch his name. It's either RUI, Rui, something like that. He was the coach of the Miraculous Youngsters for a little bit over a year. Through basically all of 2017, the end of 2016, start of 2018. I think as soon as that happened, I think the writing was on the wall there. Obviously, they can't be doing worse than never having won. So there need to be some changes. It's hard to say how much of that you could put on players, that you could put on, their current coaching staff or wherever. But obviously, like any change is probably good for the organization. They've got a new coach coming in. It seemed unlikely that RUI was going to come in and play second fiddle, and somehow they were viewing that as like an impactful organizational move. So I thought the writing was on the wall there. I think from a timing standpoint, it was a classy move by the Dragons to wait after the announcement of that hiring and then allow him to leave by stepping down, as opposed to just saying yeah, we hired this new guy and kick him to the curb immediately. So I'd say hat tip to the Shanghai Dragons for allowing U4 to leave gracefully. And then I think Kong is the interim head coach, right? Because I think RUI is going to step in and be that head coach. And then hopefully he starts, sometime a little bit before those new players come in, and maybe that's the jolt they need.
For sure. Doa, last thoughts here on the coaching changes for Shanghai Dragons.
Well, I mean, I kind of got to echo what Spider said a little bit, where they have nowhere to go but up right at this point. So sure. I mean, it sounds like this guy had issues in the game in the sense of strategy stuff. Sounds like he had issues outside of the game too, without knowing all the details on that one. But so I don't know. It's probably positive for this organization that he's gone. That said, I don't think anything's going to change. I don't think anything's going to change for Shanghai until they get their new players in. And hopefully when that happens, they can upgrade a couple spots and start to get some wins.
All I know out of this whole discussion is that both Spider and Doa said that if the Shanghai Dragons signed me, they wouldn't be worse. And I'm taking that to my grave. That does bring us...
How's your Mandarin?
It's as good as my Korean and
They're
also my
Korean
Spanish.
players too, so you can pick now, I guess.
That's true. They're equally good. They're equally
there you go. Perfect.
That's going to bring us to the end of round 2. Man, I am selling out really great here. And as always, well, not necessarily as always, people who hate on the meme, but it is, in fact, anyone's game going into round 3. I play still very close, but still at the bottom at 37. Doa at 38, and Spider and Taco leading the way at 40 points apiece. It can definitely change hands here as we go into the final round.
The payload is approaching its destination.
And of course, if you are unfamiliar, round 3 is the buy or sell round, which is basically the agree or disagree round. And we're just gonna run through this one really quick. And I will note we are very good on time here, but we can keep it. I want this one to be the one. I want this to be the one where we actually make time. But me explaining it isn't helping. Let's just move right into it. We'll start with you. Buy or sell Jake's Tracer so far?
Sell immediately.
just a straight sell. No, any other comment on?
I'm just kidding. Nothing against Jake. He's a great player. He's a very methodical player. But I think that his Tracer, what he's missing is the instinct that some of the other Tracer players have developed. If you look at, say, BOB, if you look at Soon, they're mega smart players. Like, just go and watch Dallas Field match against Valiant, and you'll see how Soon outplays AKM time and time again. He will bait out his blasts from Soldier 76, and he does this with all of these players. And I think that is something that Jake doesn't have. He has the tracking, he has the positioning, he knows who should be focusing as Tracer. He has that part down, but he doesn't have that oomph. The last
doesn't
part,
have the
right?
wow factor.
Yeah, that 5% that is all instinct, and it's all required by playing the hero like endlessly, basically.
I hear you a lot. Definitely a sell though. Taco, buying or selling Jake's Tracer so far?
I'm gonna go with buy, but I'm gonna go with buy because I think that the Houston Outlaws, from a strategic level, recognize that they did not have a natural Tracer player, and they've given time to both Linkser and Jake. Both of them proved that they were serviceable, but not super fantastic. They chose to stick Jake on that role and run Clockwork occasionally because Linkser is that just very, very special, world-class, out-of-this-world DPS, and they want to be playing him on his best heroes that are absolutely possible. Obviously, Jake will tell you, anybody will tell you that he is not Saviobi, he is not Soon. He is not there to do that, but he is there to apply pressure with Tracer to help the rest of his team. I don't think he's a long-term solution there, but I think strategically from the team, it was a very smart decision to go with him. And I think as a team player and as a guy who's a very strategic thinker himself with Jake, that it was a smart move for them as a short-term.
For sure. So we have a 1 buy and 1 sell. Doa, buying or selling Jake's Tracer so far?
I say sell now, but maybe buy a little bit later. I agree that Jake is probably the best person to have running the Tracer because of the other DPS's hero pools. But at the same time, I think out of Linkser, Clockwork, and Jake, he probably has the weakest Tracer on the roster of the DPS players at the moment. So don't have him play it now. Have him practice a bit. Come back later. When he's gained a little bit more experience. I don't know. He's probably got a ton of experience on it already. I mean, gained a little bit more skill. I don't know how to say this in a way that's not insulting to Jake. But, I think he's a great player, but I just don't think he should be doing the Tracer right now.
Yeah. It's definitely something that like I play set it, I think best is it's something intangible. It's like the wow factor, but I don't know how you get that. I certainly don't have it on anyone. But Spider, last words here: buying or selling of the Jake Tracer. I don't even know what would the name. It's not like Jake Rat works. Is it like Trake? The Trake, the Jakeser? I don't know.
I'm gonna go with hard sell. I mean, I pitched it earlier. If you want to run Tracer, put Clockwork in. Heck, put Mendo in. Let's see what he's got at this point. But why run that style anyway? They've shown that Houston runs a great game without a Tracer. So stick to what's good. If you really must run a Tracer, which some maps you kind of have to at this point, specifically like Control, try something else. Jake's shown right now that he can't do it, at least up to the level when you're playing against New York or, the top tier teams. So, try something else. Otherwise, stick to what you're good at, Houston. I mean, keep playing that anti-dive Jake Rat. Just, make it work.
Yeah. Definitely a bonus point for vouching to free Mendo. Moving on. We saw in week 1 of stage 2, EQO come out and have a really very, very good and very strong performance. Last week didn't play, although I believe it was because he was sick. I think he tweeted that out. But regardless, we've seen both Shadowburn and EQO play this stage. So Taco, are you buying EQO over Shadowburn here?
I'm going to go with a soft sell here. EQO has played 2 matches in the Overwatch League. Yes, he looked absolutely incredible. Yes, their coaches have come out and said a lot of amazing things about him. Yes, he's come out and had some very confident and or cocky statements about how his team has been performing in scrim since he arrived. He has played 2 matches. Prior to that, he was playing on a national team that was not that great. Tough to gauge his performances there. Shadowburn has been a top player in Overwatch for a long time, and a top player in Overwatch League since the preseason. Right, like he is a tried and true superstar. So it is certainly possible that in 4 weeks we'll see EQO play every match. Philly will 4-0 all of them, and this guy will suddenly be a transcendent player that is changing the way people think about Overwatch. It's also possible that they go 50-50, switching each player in, week out, and that there's really not that much of a tangible difference once people see some tape on him. If you think about how much tape people have on Shadowburn and he still performs, and the fact that people had basically zero tape on EQO for his first week, and even now for these next couple weeks, they've just got 2 matches worth. I'm gonna want to see more before we start talking about somebody dethroning Shadowburn here. Let's be real.
Definitely good points here. But Doa, are you buying or selling EQO over Shadowburn for the Philadelphia Fusion?
It's tough, but I think I'm gonna go with like a soft sell as well, because I think Shadowburn obviously brings a lot to the team. He's a great Pharah player too. The issues I have with him is that he does hold on to his Dragon Blade a long time, and kind of seems to wait for this like perfect moment. And sometimes those moments don't happen, and then it just gets used kind of in an inopportune time. In the limited data we have so far, it seems like EQO is faster at building the Dragon Blade, and certainly faster at using it. And I think he's also a little bit more willing to stick with the team and sort of coordinate what he does with the team, whereas Shadowburn has always kind of been like a, lone wolf, like I'm going to go slay 3 people and come back and let you know later kind of player, which can work. But I think both of them have positives and negatives, but maybe, long-term Eco's the way to go. But right now it's you can't say that Eco is definitively, or EQO rather, you can't say he's definitively the way to go right now. So I'd say so.
All right, definitely a lot of good points there. Spider, buying or selling EQO over Shadowburn?
I'm gonna go with a soft buy, just on the pure fact that what we've seen out of Shadowburn is consistency, but he's struggled against the top tier teams. They just barely beat the New York XL when they played them, and last week they got dumpstered by London. London basically did. They pulled the Linkster on them. They took Shadowburn out of the game. So EQO looked unstoppable against Boston and Florida. And sure, you can say one of the teams is Florida, who's only won a match. But Boston is, kind of the same level as Philly was, at least at the start of the stage. I don't think we have enough data for this stage yet to say where the teams really lie. So I want to see more of EQO. I feel like he plays better with Fraggy. He's much more aggressive than Shadowburn. Doa already stole my stats on the blade, so I can't really go there. But it's true. He's just better with his ultimate than Shadowburn, because Shadowburn waits for the clouds to part and the rainbows to show up and then say, okay, now I'm going to Dragon Blade. So I want to see more EQO. And I think this week when they play against Seoul, if they struggle, it's going to kind of definitively answer that Shadowburn kind of struggles against the top teams. And we're going to see more EQO just to kind of see what he can do against the top teams from here on out. So soft buy.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll be interesting to see more EQO, if nothing else. But I played last words here, buying or selling EQO over Shadowburn.
I can see why all of you went for the either soft buy or soft sell. Can I do like a mass purchase? Can I just put them both in my cart and take them both? To be honest,
absolutely not.
I think that the biggest strength is that this team has both, to be honest. I don't think that they should choose one or the other. I think that is great that you have both players that can play a fantastic Genji almost at the same top tier level, but then you have them diverging in their hero pools a little bit. I think, like you said, Doa, Shadowburn is a fantastic Pharah. We've also seen him on Junkrat destroying, and he even pulled out Widowmaker this week, which I had not seen from him before.
Weird with Carpe on your team.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have EQO, which fantastic Genji, but then he's also flexed into a bit of hit scan. We've seen him on Soldier, a little bit of McCree, and I can remember a few of the other heroes, but I think that intrinsically these two players have slightly different hero pools while converging on the Genji, which gives Philly like a Genji authority, right? Like they're the Genji experts almost. When you have Shadowburn and EQO both exchanging ideas, both practicing together, it just makes their play that much more strong. Well, when you can combine these two styles and you can switch them off depending on what you need. Do you think that your Genji might have to flex into a hit scan, or you think that your Genji might have to flex into some of the other projectile heroes? I think that is a huge asset for Philadelphia, and we are gonna keep seeing this interchange between both of them. I don't know if they're gonna prefer one over the other.
I think you made a lot of really great points there, but you didn't actually buy or sell. You tried to, but you didn't. So I got to take away a point there.
That's okay.
Unfortunate.
I had to do my mass purchase,
man,
or nothing.
No, transaction
Costco
declined.
for Genji.
My card didn't go through.
Yeah, you got Genji deflected on that mass buy. But we're gonna move into the last question here for round 3, and this one is going to be about the Boston Uprising, which we haven't talked a ton about. But we saw more Kalios this week. We saw at least some note Kalios this week, and many, myself included, are saying that actually kind of looked pretty good. The two off tanks playing together over Gamsu. So Doa, we'll start with you. Buying or selling Boston looking better without Gamsu?
I'm gonna say sell easy on that one because we just don't have enough data to really say that that's a better way for them to go. What's their record again? Let me look it up. Hold on. It's I had this information in my head and then it was gone. Yeah, so they 4-0'd Florida, right? And let's see what else. They were 4-0'd by New York. Well, then they went 0-12 before that in maps. So it's yeah. So sure, maybe internally, maybe there's some communication issue where Gamsu isn't working out with the team. Although I know his English is pretty good because I've known that guy for a while. They put in Kalios and Note as their tanks, and it worked pretty well. But it worked pretty well against Florida. So big asterisk there as well, since Florida is not the strongest team in the league right now, obviously. So I think for me, that's an easy sell because we just, the matchups are very dubious and it's only one match. So you can't really draw any conclusions from that.
For sure. Spider, buying or selling, Boston looking better without Gamsu in?
I'm going to go with buy just because somebody put it best earlier. Play the hot hand. I mean, Kalios showed that he is doing better than Gamsu right now. Gamsu's kind of struggled in the last matches. I mean, you you can take a look at the stats. Gamsu's only won 1 out of 3 fights this stage that he's participated in. So that's pretty low for a main tank. So play the hot hand, let Kalios play, and, say Kalios falters and it doesn't quite work out. That's going to at least light a fire in Gamsu and say, okay, well, I got to at least fight for the main tank spot. So I better get my monkey butt in gear and get moving. So, I don't think there's any downside right now to playing Kalios. And I kind of agree with Doa that I don't think we've seen the last of Gamsu. Like, I don't think Kalios is going to take his job. But right now, just put Kalios in and see what he can do.
I like it. I play. What are your thoughts here? Buying or selling? Make sure you do it.
I got it. I'm gonna say buy ? In here because
you're just trying to make up new stuff, aren't you?
Because they did perform a little better with him, but did they perform that much better? I think that Boston right now is right in the middle spot of the league. And they seem like a very average team. They can beat the lower half, but they're struggling against the upper half. We saw a moment of brilliance from them on the end of last stage. For a second, they almost made it to the finals there, but since then they've been kind of on a decline a little bit. It's also one of the teams that struggled the most against Widowmakers. So I don't know if this comes from the front line itself, from the tanks, or is more about a positioning factor from them, because we know that that's the one hero that this team cannot get through. As soon as you get a top Widowmaker like Birdring shooting at you, they completely fall apart. So I don't know. I think that there's more stuff to work here than just the front line.
Yeah, I mean
they had 3 strong opponents, and then they had like a really weak opponent.
Yeah, it's certainly tough to know definitively. But Taco, last words here: buying or selling Boston without Gamsu?
But I have to match my soft from last round with a hard sell for this round. I think there's a couple reasons for that, right? And Doa very correctly touched on the fact that there's not nearly enough data to draw any conclusions here, right? I think that another point is Boston is a very, obviously everybody knows them as a dive team, but they have a very unique style of dive, right? It's through stage 1, they grew stronger as the stage went on, as they got more and more practice with the maps, found interesting places to hide their tanks, to allow their DPS to make calls, to have those tanks just come in and surprise the enemy team and give them big advantages. If you think about how much they were grinding those maps, particularly because they were in playoff contention all the way to the very end, they did not have a very long time to prepare for this new map pool, to find these new spots, to work on how they want to dive against different strategies and different team compositions that they haven't seen yet. They're going to grow into this stage as well. So I think them stumbling in week 1 is probably some combination of, we haven't figured out all of our sweet tank hidey spots yet, combined with, this is probably not the team compositions they were expecting people to run. So they're kind of going with their B-list hiding spots and diving and finding things that they weren't expecting. They did a little bit better in week 2. I think they're going to continue to do better and better as they get a chance to workshop that. I think long-term for them, what they really need to do is figure out how to not do this every stage.
Yeah, that is certainly going to be a lingering question for Boston moving forward. But that is going to bring us to the end of regular play, the end of the stage, if you will. And we're going to be moving into our final question between the top 2. But before we do, we must say goodbye to two of our friends here. We had iPlay with 54 points and Taco with 55. You both fought valiantly, even though I guess iPlay tried to make up way too many rules and tried to max out his credit cards in the buy or sell round, which I do commend him for. But you got Genji deflected. But that does mean that, of course, our 2 finalists here, Spider and Doa, will be moving into the final round, both with 56 points. And the random tossing of a coin determines that, Spider, you are going to be going first. And the question here, so for those of you at home who don't know how the final question works, there's no points given out here. So you don't need to ramble on and on and on and try to get more points. It is just ask a question. I'm asking a question. You pick an answer and make an argument for it. And I'm picking the winner myself. There's no points here. So let's move right on. And the final question here is, if you had to give out an award for the best DPS in Overwatch League right now. Who gets it? Spider, you're first.
I love an underdog story, so I'm gonna go with Libero. I love Libero. I followed him, way back since his Meta Athena days. I just feel like he's constantly overshadowed by Pine and Saiobi. So he's shown that he's one of the best Genjis in the league, at least consistently. But he also has a ridiculously deep hero pool. He has, Hanzo, Junkrat, Pharah, Soldier, kind of the best of all worlds. So, I loved Meta Athena when they would pull out like the Mei strat on Numbani and they ran that Bastion up top. And I have to feel like part of that is still alive with Libero. So I just wish, and this will probably lose me points, but I wish I would see more of his Hanzo because I loved his Hanzo in Apex. So,
what do we do when both people want to pick the same guy? That was totally my choice too.
Well, someone has tried to pick the same thing before, and it didn't work out for them, Doa. So you might want to pick something else here. But the ball is in your court.
For the record, Libero is absolutely my DPS award right now in the league. But if I have to pick somebody different,
you don't have to. I just can't. I can't say it's going to work out for you.
I think if you have to pick somebody else. Right now in Overwatch League or just in general, I think it's hard to not choose Fleta because he's just so incredible on like every single hero he plays, whether it's like the Widowmaker or the Pharah or anything, honestly. And so he brings so much to the team. He's got such a cool story in that he's this breakout player from Flash Lux, which was this like super low tier team in Korea. I remember that because they were like a joke when we casted them in Apex. So Fleta escaped Flash Lux prison, and now he's like the star player on the Seoul Dynasty team, and he's super good. He's better than nearly everybody else, but I will admit that Libero is a better choice because he is more versatile, and he is an amazing Hanzo. He's the best Hanzo in the world, no doubt.
Man, so I got a couple of comments here. Okay, first off is that if someone were to have picked Jonak, they would have instantly won. I wouldn't have even let the other person go. Just so you know, that was the correct answer. Jonak was the correct answer.
It's not best player in the league.
Oh, no. Well, here's the thing. If you're just looking at here's the thing. It's all about just pandering to me. And I, at the end of the day, choose the winner. And so...
That's fine.
I do think Libero is an absolutely fantastic answer for a lot of reasons. The problem with it is that it is very clearly a pander. I see right through it, Spider. And I do think that Libero is a great player, and I do think that he does in a way get overshadowed by SBB and Pine. And he is absolutely greatest Hanzo in the world. I do got to give it to Fleta as much as I want to give it to the New York Excelsior here for obvious reasons. I can't. Spider, I don't know, man. I tried to, but Doa, that is
actually the correct answer. I'm sorry.
Jonak was the correct answer, but Doa, that means that you are the victor here. You get your little victory speech, your sellout promo, whatever you want. The floor is yours.
Follow me at GGDo if you don't already. I'm on the Overwatch League, so watch that. And I'll probably be streaming some of my Warhammer building stuff in the future here. I'm working on a setup for that. So that's not really Blizzard game related, but it should be pretty fun. So keep an eye out for that. And I've got an Instagram too. It's I think it's DOA Esports because GGDo was taken, sadly. So DOA Esports on Instagram. If you're into the Warhammer miniature painting thing, that's where I put like most of my stuff. So
nice.
There you go.
Definitely. And for those of you who are listening to the show later, I will have the links for everyone's Twitter and all that good stuff in the description below, so you don't need to worry about having to go find that. And you should definitely follow everything that everyone does. But that is going to bring us to the end of the show. Thank you.
Spider.
It's a tough
He was
one.
actually my first pick. Fleta was my second, and Linkster was my third because I didn't know if there might have been a three-way tie. But you know what?
Well, he's good.
I was never letting Bird. After the stage 1 playoffs, if you said Bird Ring, I was just going to buzz you out and give the other person the win. It was like the opposite of Jonak here. But that is going to bring us to the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much, everyone being on. Doa, Spider, Taco, and iPlay. Thank you so much for being on. Make sure everyone listening and watching, go follow them. They're great. Remember, you can always find everything that High Noon Productions does over at highnoonpodcast.com. All the links to everything is there. But that is going to be it for Doa, for Spider, for Taco, and for iPlay Games. I am the Blevins, and we will catch you next week around the payload. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
So yeah.